Hi, crypto friends. We're checking in and we had a lot of activity last night into today, indicating our temporary top. And what it was marked by was a push to higher highs. The bulls used up all their energy. They triggered stops. The bears waited until bear stops were triggered a little bit to the higher high. And it all happened very quickly on the 5-minute time frame, pushing to that new high. And then the bears made their move in a big way after a little bit of a tightening range and dumped the price. So now we have daily consolidation underway. Up to that point, we were using the 4-hour time frame as our guide. As long as the 4-hour uptrend was going on, we had nice oversold entries on 5 and 15-minute time frames. That signaled when to be looking for the bounces, and the bounces played out time and time again on those time frames while we were in this uptrend. Now that we have lost that uptrend, those time frames for oversold bounces are not going to be as important. It's going to be the hourly and the 4-hour RSIs that we're watching for potential bounces. So a clear shift in sentiment where this is the first bearish action, first bearish follow through that we've seen on this entire move. We look at the daily chart for Bitcoin and it's been nothing but bulls for the last 9 days in a row, and now that has broken. So we're still looking at a daily uptrend. Anything above 47.78 is a higher low on the daily chart. We still have exponential supports, which we are approaching. We're cooling off RSI levels, which were already pretty high. So on the longer daily time frame, there's no major red flags at this point. A lot of people were anticipating some resistance in the mid to upper 5,000 range, so that's not surprising. The question is, do we see a lower high and a lower low on the daily? And does that tell us that our weekly top is in for now? And we would then have to backtest weekly exponential support and look to form a weekly new support level. Or can we form a higher low and then see continuation? I anticipate that we're going to stay within the range that we have now set between 47.78 and 54.88 for at least a few days. And if the bears are going to get follow through and break some daily support levels, it's going to have to come with 4-hour lower highs and lower lows and 4-hour oversold conditions. So congrats to the bears that made an entry there. It happened very quickly. This is why stop losses are so important, because of how quickly things can shift on a dime. And of course, we know that if we get a narrative out there of, a reason, that's what the mainstream media likes to do. They do it in the stock market all the time. You can have a clear break and it's clear that it was technically driven as to why that break occurred, but they'll find a reason to attribute as to why. You have to explain why with fundamentals. People that don't understand technicals always need a fundamental reason why. So you might see people talking about how Bitcoin, that article about China potentially shutting down mining being the cause for this, when in reality that news came out and we moved to higher highs in the face of that news before this bearish reaction. So I don't think it has anything to do with any kind of news event, just like the bull break was all technical. In my opinion, it didn't have anything to do with any news event, and even saw the Binance CEO tweeting, I have no idea what's going on. Why is this bull move occurring? And that's just because he wasn't aware of the technical setup for that weekly trend change. So all in all, oversold bounces, as far as risk to reward goes, after that initial 2-day move, oversold bounces has been where the trades for bulls has been the best. Those oversold bounces see little downside once those 5 and 15-minute RSIs get oversold, and the percentage gains on the oversold bounces as opposed to the percentage gains on the bull breaks for continuation, it has been better for those oversold bounces. So keeping an eye on those shorter term time frames, but again, now the focus is on the hourly, and this bounce attempt right now that's ongoing, the 15-minute exponential moving average. I mean, if we've been in this space for a while now or watching these videos, we know the zoom out game. We have the 15-minute exponential resistances giving the bulls some trouble. If we get a bull break of these 15-minute lower highs, which we actually did get a little bull break mixed in there, a little bit choppy, on the hourly time frame, we're then watching the hourly exponential resistances. And if we drop down and break 49.67, it will be all about that 47.78 level on the daily time frame. So Ethereum, want to point out with the alert system, and we're going to talk a bit more about the alert system this weekend because we finally got our free week trial up and running. So we'll announce that and tell you all how to check it out. But remember, Tim posted timely ETH USD bot radar. That's our bot radar for the alert system. Automated sell 1,000 ETH sold every 14 seconds on GDAX. And that was occurring right in here before the big time dump. Now, I'm getting feedback from members who I appreciate, monitoring these alerts and saying how they are best utilized, saying that the directional signals of the bot selling doesn't necessarily mean bullish or bearish. But what it does mean is volatility is incoming. So after an all-out bull break like that, and then consolidation, seeing that much selling going on, that's an indication. Obviously, we can assume it's probably going to be a more bearish reaction than bullish. But seeing those bots start to pick up activity is a good indicator that volatility is going to spike. And that certainly happened not too long after that signal went out. So again, I'm going to talk more. I'll probably go live sometime this weekend, talk about the alert system, talk about the free trial, how it's best utilized, and you guys can check it out and see if you want to use it. And that's my style of advertising. I don't ever like to push anything. And we obviously haven't been talking about alerts because the trading environment for cryptocurrency the last few months has not been good. So we're not going to push alerts when it's not an ideal environment to use those alerts in. But the environment has shifted and it's ideal. You can see if you want to use it or not for free. Everybody wins. So Ethereum on the daily time frame is pulling back as well. So we are looking for a daily higher low, and we haven't formed a daily higher low this entire bull move. Every single day was a little higher low compared to the last one. So really, I'm looking for a higher low compared to 138.81. We are at exponential supports at this point. I want to know what the weekly time frame is doing for a broader perspective of things. We can see a temporary top does look set. Anything above 130.64 is a weekly higher low. And the most important thing for me in the cryptocurrency space for April and May, can we keep the weekly uptrend? Because if we lose the weekly uptrend from here, big red flag. And that's when we have to look for the monthly time frames to potentially be just giving us lower highs. So weekly uptrend is now the most important thing for me. And for Ethereum, 130.64 and 122.75 are those most important levels. As far as the daily time frame goes, we are looking for a daily higher low to form. The 4-hour RSI got closer to oversold than Bitcoin did. At this point, it is a 4-hour potential bear flag, and the hourly time frame is shifting momentum. We're looking at the hourly exponential resistance. If we cannot get over those hourly exponential resistances, bear flag is certainly going to be in the conversation for that 4-hour time frame. So for me personally, I missed the dump this morning. I woke up 20 minutes after the bottom was hit. So rather than trying to chase and find an entry, I just said, all right, missed it. Trade didn't come to me. And now sit back and establish a new game plan. And for me, my game plan now is if we drop to lower lows, I'm going to look for 4-hour oversold RSI entries, anticipating daily higher lows will be shortly after we see those lower lows and dump. If we get those lower lows. If we do not get those lower lows, I'm going to have to reestablish my game plan once we see how significant this bounce does follow through. So that's what we're watching for Ethereum. It's a little bit different of a setup compared to Bitcoin. 4-hour time frame on Bitcoin is more sideways, where Ethereum's gotten a little bit more bounce follow through as far as each candlestick, slightly higher low and higher high. But as we know, that is a potential bear flag pattern. Litecoin, I traded the Litecoin bull break yesterday, and I really liked the setup here. So it's a shame that it got destroyed, but we had a really nice setup for a daily higher low forming, and the 4-hour time frame got nice and tight for an equilibrium, and I was making a play based off of that equilibrium. I was looking at the low, high, higher low, lower high, higher low. We were really tight, and I entered on a bull break of a stop buy in the 89.20s because breaking 89.07 was a first bull break, and the second level was 89.31 right behind it. So I anticipated that if we break 89.07 and I trigger in for a stop buy, my orders are going to help break the 89.31 resistance level as well. That ended up being the case. And what I did, and is a strategy that I've talked about multiple times in videos, and I do it in stocks all the time, scaling out into strength right away to lower my break-even point. So I triggered in, let's say my average was 89.30 with fees, maybe 89.40. And the first 5-minute candlestick, we see a 3% follow through move roughly. So that's a very significant follow through. I scale out into that, and I exited a third of my position on that initial bull move up in the $91 range that initially locks in my profit. So let's just say, for ease of math, I entered 99 LTC USD on that break at 89.40. I then sold 33 of those in the 91. So I instantly have a $2 profit, and that lowers my break-even point from 89.40 to 88.40. That gives me a lot more space and a lot more comfortability to work with. As soon as I saw that the temporary top was set and we saw some follow-through consolidation, I scaled out some more on this bounce. And this was actually my order of 90.99 that rejected the price right here, and only 60% of that order filled. But at that point, I have now scaled out half of my position from that entry. And that's just remaining protective, locking in profit, having position left where if we do see crazy breakout continuation, I'm still going to be having fun, but protecting my trade is the bottom line with what I was doing. Then, as we saw tightening further on the 5-minute time frame, and then the all-out bear break, and I was stopped out, and I ended up with very slight profit. But the bottom line is it protected me against getting into a loss very quickly after that bull break did occur. So scaling out partial positions, cannot speak highly of it enough. And what I will do is usually if I want, let's say I wanted a 99, let's say I wanted a 60 Litecoin position on that bull break, I enter a little bit bigger and then instantly scale out to lower that cost basis. So I would enter, if I want 60, maybe I enter 90 and sell 30 in the first 1% move. So for Litecoin setup on the daily chart, we now have a daily trend change. We have lost the daily uptrend. Get rid of these lines here. So that little lower high and lower low has shifted momentum. We had a lower high, another lower high, and then we broke support. So we're zooming out to the weekly time frame now and saying, all right, weekly inside bar, very likely. And we're going to be looking for a higher low on the weekly chart to form. Exponential moving averages are support, still easily support at this point, so no red flags on the weekly time frame. Anything on the weekly chart above 42.40 is a higher low, so the bulls have tons of space to work with. The weekly uptrend is not in jeopardy at this point. The 4-hour RSI got a lot more beat up. So if we do see another leg down, I am going to be interested in scaling into LTC in the low 70s and upper 60s, looking for that 4-hour RSI to get oversold. Here's the hourly exponential resistance dropping. We can see it's choppy on the 15-minute time frame, not exactly in equilibrium, though pretty close, and very similar to what Bitcoin is doing as well. So Ethereum's a little bit different than the setup for these two, but everybody is looking at the hourly exponential resistance to see if this bounce can have follow through or if it's going to lead to another leg down. So again, I just want to highlight one more time the very clear shift in momentum where for the last 9 days, the bulls have had strength. The oversold short-term bounces have had follow through, and that now shifts. And it's a different market environment from today for the next couple days than it has been for the preceding 9 days. So we have to change our game plan. If I'm using the alert system and using the 15-minute oversold RSI indicator or oversold climax indicator for the last 9 days, I now shift to the hourly or 4-hour because things get more extreme because we have lost the 4-hour uptrend. BCH also shifting momentum. We're looking for a daily higher low compared to the 166s. Bulls have tons of space to work with. Weekly inside bars are going to be seen in a lot of names this week. And the bounce, comparing it to everybody else, 4-hour inside bars, hourly exponential resistances being tested right now. So as far as percentages go, we had a solid 10% bounce. So the risk to reward for BCH due to lack of liquidity and bigger spreads between the bid and the ask allows for bigger wins and bigger losses in both directions. So if you want more volatility, you're looking to trade this name. The LTC usually has a bit more volatility than Bitcoin, so that's a reason I've been keeping an eye on LTC. It all depends on what you want for risk to reward with who you're going to be looking to play. But for BCH here, if we're going to try and change trends, we need to see hourly bulls get over that exponential resistance. If we do, we zoom out to the 4-hour, and those 4-hour exponential resistances are right there, and we're anticipating a 4-hour lower high compared to 315. XRP has given back the most of the bull move. So the bull move, before it occurred, we were down here at 317, and here we are just a penny plus above that level. So the amount of move given back, it's been all over the place really compared to other names because we got the higher high when no one else really did out of the major names, and now we've given back the vast majority of that. 4-hour RSI dropped down into oversold conditions at the low there. We're seeing a weak bounce attempt. Hourly exponential resistances in play, but still just clear lower highs. 339 is the last hourly lower high and the most important short-term resistance level. So looking at the weekly time frame, after giving back so much of the move, it's a weekly inside bar, but again, it's not very confident building to give back the vast majority of this move. If we went up, let's just say 312 up to 383, that is a 7-cent bull move, roughly speaking. And at this point, we have given back pretty much 6 of that 7 cents. So again, giving back that high of a percentage of the bull move is certainly concerning. And when you compare it to Bitcoin, the amount of the bull move that we saw up, we'll just call it 40.51 to, so a $1,400 move to the upside. And at this point, we've given back, about 5 of that. So giving back a third of the move as opposed to 85% of the move. Big difference. BNB USDT continues to give us little daily lower highs and lower lows. So weekly consolidation is underway. And the bulls can still pull off a weekly bull flag at this point. As long as we don't get significant follow through on these lower lows, and if bulls keep buying these little dips, we'll see if we can get a healthy weekly higher low. I would be eyeing the low $16 range to the $15 range for that potential. The 4-hour time frame bouncing from oversold conditions multiple times. Look at that RSI. As soon as it gets under 30, we bounce from 17 to 1860. It's about a 9% bounce. And here so far, we bounced from 1625 to 17. We've seen a 90-cent bounce. That's about a 5% bounce at this point. So 4-hour oversold conditions on BNB has been a good entry signal, but we know that on the 4-hour time frame, anything under 1861 is just a lower high at this point. Have to change the 4-hour trend to give us the first indication of the weekly higher low potentially being set. More cautious and patient bulls are going to wait for the daily trend to shift back in favor of the bulls in order to be looking for that weekly higher low being set. ADA USDT still holding the exponential support on the daily here, or attempting to, but we clearly changed the daily trend with this lower high and lower low here as well. So the weekly time frame inside bar, like everybody else, we've run so hard the last 5 weeks. The weekly uptrend is not in jeopardy whatsoever. The bulls are extremely comfortable on the longer term time frame, and it's just a question of when can we establish our higher low and shift that momentum back in favor of the bulls. Hourly bounce is stronger, like BCH, already testing exponential resistance. The percentage bounce at this point is up around 9%. Hourly RSI dipped into oversold down at the lows. The 4-hour RSI dipped close to oversold, but not quite there. And you can see the 4-hour RSI has not dipped to oversold over the last few days, so that's a distinct difference. We bounced from 37 and then pretty much bounced from the upper 30s yet again. So not getting to as extreme levels, but we are looking for a 4-hour lower high to be set compared to 916. So just visually looking at all these names and running through them and comparing them to Bitcoin, I can see that BCH and ADA are some of the stronger bounces. I can see that we still have hourly exponential resistances on a lot of the major names. And where I stand, again, very patient. If I miss the trade, I spent the last 2 years in cryptocurrency and Canadian MJ really going for it. And if your strategy is to really go for it and put in your entire effort and shape your life around trading, my advice would be don't do it for too long or you'll go insane. But it's important, or it should say it's possible to take short little bursts, whether it's a couple months or a few weeks, to try and do that. And if you were doing that, you would want alarms set to wake you up. You know, I would have woken up this morning at 6 in the morning on my day off when, you know, those RSI levels were getting to extremes to play that bounce. Instead, I woke up when I naturally woke up and I missed the play, and that's fine for me. So it all depends on how aggressively you want to play this space in terms of how you're shaping your game plans. But for me, it's more passive these days, so I can patiently wait and see if we're going to drop down another leg. And if we do, I will be looking to play it in that instance with hourly and 4-hour RSI as the biggest factors going forward. So I appreciate you watching. Again, I will see you probably before this weekend, but if not, I'll go live this weekend. We'll do some live charting analysis and we'll go over the alert system, how to best utilize it to give that free trial a whirl and see if it can give you some use, because again, those oversold alerts would have been going off this morning on these dumps, specifically on the hourly timeframes, getting down into those oversold conditions. So congrats to the Bears that jumped in. That move happened really quickly. So that was a bit tricky to get into those Bears positions. I know some did. And we also had a little bit of a lag time where on the first initial dump, the bulls bought that dip, but breaking to a lower low after that dump, it's been notable on the way up that the Bears have not gotten follow through. We dump and then the bulls recover and we don't get much of another leg down. And that's happened multiple times, but here was the leg down. And although you wouldn't have, nailed the top, there still would have been some nice follow through and a solid few percent to the downside. And at this point, bears looking for an entry are looking for 4-hour lower highs and watching the exponential resistances as a potential guide to be looking for those entries. Thanks again. Hope you're well. Do good things. We'll see you soon. So picking up story time, still in Costa Rica. and getting ready to move to the little house on the beach to do the house sitting. Still staying at the hostel at this point and exploring the jungle. Lots of hiking trails around and rivers to swim in and fun to be had. Some stray animals. So befriended some dogs and cats that were living out on the road. And they would sleep on our doorstep knowing that we were the good guys. This is a cool river spot that, again, everything's just a 5-10 minute walk from the center of town. Ended up getting an ear infection from that water, as my body was not used to the different microbes and things in that kind of environment, but learned some tricks. Obviously, there's no ATM in town. There's no doctor in town. So I ended up just getting some garlic cloves and some olive oil. And you crush up the garlic cloves and put it in the olive oil overnight. And then you use that as ear drops. And you can even just crush up the outside of the garlic clove and stick it in your ear overnight. And so after an elevated temperature and a clear ear infection for about 3 days, it went away and didn't have to worry about it. So nice that some natural remedies could help things out in that instance and didn't have to go to Panama, which is the border where there's the closest real town, but that's a 1.5-hour, 2-hour drive to get to. So I like ants at this point. But these ants are just insane. They would have these trails going along the dirt that would be so walked on by these paths of ant as they're building their nests and taking these leaves that it would literally be, 4 or 6 inches lower than the ground around it in these little channels, just where these ants erode the dirt. And then, of course, rain falls on it, and then rain adds to that erosion. But they're literal lanes where the ants are just 24/7 the whole day, just back and forth, thousands of them in their commutes. So the best part about the ocean in the evening is the water and the air is still plenty warm to be swimming. So pretty much until you can't see anymore, the ocean is fair game. And it's pretty much a multiple day excursion to get into the ocean. Some cool bugs. And again, the plants and animals were one of the coolest things because I had never been in an environment that had all these different species, and to just observe them all, it was like a playground of life. So that's Cowboy. Cowboy was a little old dude, and his god was ball. Anything with a ball, that's all he cared about in his life. He was probably double digits age at this point, and he has since passed on, but he was still killing it in terms of running for that ball. As many times as you would throw it, he would go get it. So our job consisted of every morning walking 100 feet to the wide open beach that was to ourselves and throwing the ball for the dogs and playing with the dogs and swimming, and that was it. And this is Baloo. Baloo spoke Spanish and Cowboy spoke English. Baloo was much younger. So if you wanted her to come, you'd say, "Benga!" And Cowboy would give her a run for her money in terms of going after that ball. But they were a great duo to hang out with, so we spent the next 4 weeks hanging out with them. And I'll tell some stories, some dog stories where we fought off wild packs of wolves from the mountaintop. I actually already told that story, so some of you OG TCG viewers know that story. But it's a good one. I'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good day.